And we are back with day 16 of Survivor 46 and 46. I just finished watching Survivor Micronesia, where Amanda powdered her way through another final tribal, which resulted in Parvati winning and leading to this Parvati is a legend status that I want to really touch on as we go through this today. Today I'm joined by Robert, the man, the myth, the legend from the orc community. Robert, thank you for joining us. And from the Survive Now podcast, we have Randy. Thank you both so much for reaching out to do this season in particular, because I feel like we have a lot to talk about. Because from seasons 1 through 7, while I was doing this, I kept alluding to All Stars, because All Stars was like that first season that everyone comes back. This time around, from 9 to now, I've just been jumping the gun and going to heroes versus villains, when in reality, I should have been going 9 to 16, because this is a great stopping point in the history of Survivor. It's the last non-HD season. We get the last of like the original tribal music. Big moves are starting to become a thing more often in this season, where, you know, we don't even have to worry about OG tribe lines anymore here. And this is like one of the first times that we see that. So we're going to start with Robert. What was your experience watching it the first time, and how has it changed throughout your life, I guess?
Yeah. I remember watching. So I watched all the Survivor seasons up till Micronesia, and I remember I loved China. So like Micronesia coming off the back of China was cool because you had Amanda and James in there, and it was just, I think, like such a good season, because you never, it sounds silly, but you never really had like a super strong female alliance. I think all of the big winners that people thought about the first 15 season were always like the male winners. So it was cool to see, you know, you have these really strong female ones. But like, I think the coolest thing on it, and it's my favorite season by far. Like, I think it will always be my favorite. But like in hindsight, I remember being on like Survivor Sucks forums and people like flaming and Amanda. They're like, why are these two here? Why were they chosen? So I love that they end up being the final two. I mean, I did love Suri, so that was really tough. But yeah, it's always stood up the test of time, because it had multiple people being blindsided with idols, which wasn't, you know, idols are still like new.
Yeah, we're like 4 or 5 seasons to the idol era, and we're only 3 seasons into the real idol era.
And it was like crazy just to see it back to back happen. And then also, like, I think what I like about Micronesia is like they kind of knew if you went to exile, you'd get the idol. So like the idol was kind of common knowledge.
Unless you're Kathy.
Yeah, unless you're Kathy, of course.
Unless you're Kathy. Or like Amy.
If you're Kathy.
Yeah.
Right. Right. But it was just, yeah, just a fun season. So many, you know, every tribal council was surprising. And then obviously, you know, Final 5. Like, I still think that is like,
well, don't worry, we'll touch all on Final 5 later. Randy, I know that you've watched this season. I know that you watched this season more recently. So before you watched it, did you know anything about, like, I'm assuming you knew at least a bit about it, but did it exceed the expectations that people had put on it for so long? Or were you just kind of like, okay, yeah, it was really good, but I don't get it?
I mean, it exceeded expectations and then some. So for everyone who doesn't know, I'll just go ahead for the sake of this show to put it out there. Yes, I consider myself a huge Survivor fan, but I began watching Survivor for South Pacific. And so I had to go back and do this like research of all these classic seasons that, you know, some of them are the best seasons of all time. Some are just the OG seasons. And so, yeah, I just I just watched Micronesia for the first time about 2 weeks ago. And I obviously knew who won, and I knew all these historic moments, because that's just what comes with the job as a podcaster, to, you know your information before you actually talk on it. So I knew all this, but then just to watch it play out, I mean, I have to agree with Robert. I think it's my favorite season of all time. I got to rewatch Cagayan to compare the two, because that has always been my favorite season. But now that I've seen Micronesia, it's just, I honestly don't know what could have went better. Like, I understand.
Oh, I know one thing that could have gone better.
Well, I know. I'm sure we're going to get to it, but I know a lot of the I hate to say casual fans, but I know a lot of the grievances that people have with it, right? We had a lot of people who either had to leave the game or wanted to quit the game. Like, I get that. There's the argument about, was it one of the strongest alliances we've ever seen, or was it just awful gameplay by the guys? So like, I hear all those arguments, but at the end of the day, this is a show that is meant to entertain us. And I have not been more entertained than watching this season. And I know we'll get into all of that, but it was just start to finish. There was drama going on, and it created an incredible season.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, I'm gonna jump the gun by like an hour or how long we end up talking about this. I'm gonna give it a 4.75 out of 5, which puts it number 2 so far on my 16-day rewatch. So it's right now it's behind Pearl Islands, and I think, and I want to touch on this comment because this time around I wanted to pay, especially this time around watching all these seasons, I like pointing out who I think were recruited and who were not. And this season, I do agree that some of the fans were they weren't actual fans. Like, I feel like Eric was, and we're going to touch all on Eric a little later. But I do feel like the fans versus favorites theme as a whole, Micronesia is a great season. And so what I'm about to say is not saying anything negative about the season. I do think fans versus favorites as a concept is flawed-ish, and that's because all of these people have played before, and you put these people that have played before out there against people who most of the time are going to be recruits, because even like, I mean, James and all of them were recruits, but like they had done this before, and you put these people out there, they're going to have a hard time. And that's why there's only been one season, right? There's only been one season where there have been returnees on the season where there were no returnees at the final tribal, and that's Edge of Extinction. I think that it's very hard to play in a game where people have, that much of a head start. Obviously, having said that, Micronesia is an amazing season. The fans versus favorites is so much better than the second fans versus favorites. I count Blood versus Water as the second fans versus favorites because Caramoan is Caramoan. But we talk about these blind sides. These blind sides start pre-merge. We start with what's her face? I wasn't actually trying to do the meme, but like Mary getting voted out. And I know the whole Mary thing is a meme now, but like that was a legitimate blindside set 2 votes in. We have, the fact that I don't think the Yao Man thing was much of a blindside, but there was a power struggle there. Joel, God, getting voted out. Yeah, we have that. I want to start at the beginning of this because we have now gone 9 to 16. Y'all's personal opinions on this. Were there any favorites that stood out to you as like, why are they here? Either one can go.
I mean, for me, like, it was definitely like Johnny Fairplay because I know he was so iconic, but you had the 9 other favorites were all post All-Stars. So I thought that was an odd one. And then he gets booted right away. But no, honestly, like it's crazy when you think about the Parvati. I was just like, Parvati, I was like, I mean, she was fun because she was a recruit. And that's like the funny thing about recruits is like a whole nother, you could spend hours on that.
Oh yeah, we talked a lot about recruits the last few days.
The most like iconic people were recruits, Yeah, I think that was the only one that was kind of like question mark. I was like, I feel like there were a couple others, but everyone else, I think it was kind of okay. Well, if James was just a fun personality, I don't think he was a great player.
Randy's
James gets me every time because I was going to say fair play as well. Like fair play is an odd one just because he's fair play. He's very controversial. James personally is someone that I don't see James as a good Survivor player, but I understand why they brought him back. It's marketing. He was so popular with the fans, so that makes sense. I guess for the sake of argument, Eliza was a bit strange to me, given every other person you could have brought back. But I mean, I get it. Just for the sake of argument, if we're saying someone other than fair play, I would probably say Eliza would probably be down there in terms of the favorites of, that's a little shocking. It's nice to see her back.
Yeah, for me, I would say I wouldn't say fair play just because I do think that he wasn't like, it was weird that they brought someone back pre All-Stars, pre All-Stars, but like I felt like Fair Play earned his spot, whatever that means. Parvati was my person because, like we said, Parvati was not the first through fourth main character on Cook Islands. She was probably like sixth, and I also think that's the place that she got as well. She wasn't like a main character on the season. She was eye candy, and like she had some very fun confessionals, and she had her flirtmance with Nate. But outside of that, it's like, okay, we're bringing her back. And when she is the initial target on that favorites tribe, it's like, yeah, get rid of the person that we don't feel deserves to be here. And I think, on the other end, I think they were going to try to target Eliza. And I think that's the other thing. It's like, they probably just didn't feel like Eliza deserved to be there. Now, I have mixed feelings about Eliza, mostly positive, but I did this in Vanuatu, so I'm not going to do it here. I think that overall they got the best of what they could have, what they were working with. They wanted to do post All-Stars minus Fair Play without winners. I feel like you did get, a good mix of people, knowing that Heroes vs. Villains is coming in 4 seasons. On the fans tribe, and this is the problem that the Caramelon runs into, where we kind of just don't care about the fans tribe. Mm-hmm. And the edit does not care about the fans tribe because I texted Robert about this earlier. Natalie Bolton, who is like looked at as like one of these all-time villains, is more than purple in the pre-merge, along with Alexis, along with pretty much everyone except for Tracy and Joel. What do we think about this fans tribe? Did they have any hope? Did they have any chance?
You said it earlier, how it's like you put these fans against the favorites and they're always going to struggle. It's mainly because of what happens day one. Like these favorites who come on, they know how to get the basic essentials started. And at the end of the day, that's going to help you so much. They know how to build a shelter. They know how to get fire. And that's like Survivor 101. Get that going, and then you can cook something. You can get that energy you need for the challenges. So it didn't shock me that they struggled right away. I love that you brought up Natalie Bolton, though, because you asked me the question earlier about like if this season exceeded expectations, like going into it, how I felt and all that. I had heard Natalie Bolton. I knew who Natalie Bolton was. And to go in and watch this season and watch her edit, I was very confused because I'm like, I did not see any of her throughout the pre-merge. And you barely saw any of her until about the final 6, final 7. And that was mind-boggling to me. I was like, this is Natalie Bolton? This is the person that everybody is telling me like is a Survivor, like needs to go back out there again. Survivor, like arguably like an OG legend or whatever, depending on how much you love Natalie Bolton. But so, yeah, that was the biggest thing to me. The fact that Eric, who we all know Eric for the move, and we'll get to that, but the fact that Eric got so much screen time. And when I've been messaging people, they're like, finally, Randy's watching this season. Thank God. All I heard about was Natalie Bolton. And I'm like, what? Eric was on my screen about 10 times the amount that she was. So that was probably the biggest thing that stuck out to me. I didn't expect the fans tribe to get purpled. Some of the people in the fans tribe to get purpled as much as they did.
Robert?
Yeah, similar one. So I think Micronesia, another cool thing I remember about Micronesia is I think Maokai, the purple tribe, like after the swap, they lose every challenge. And I think those are always interesting because you see it in like the more recent seasons with these tribes who lose like almost every challenge. They like take up the edit because that's where all the strategy is. So I think that distracted. But no, Natalie's a funny one because it was like, I think the auction, right? And then she finally has a personality, but like you're more than halfway through. But yeah, I mean, there's like a good moment where like during the tribe swap, Jason calls Parvati poverty. So it's like, okay, he's clearly not a huge fan.
Parvati.
Yeah.
Brooks is like, oh, I'm just learning how to do it now.
Yeah. But I think that Tracy and Natalie are always the standouts. Tracy, I just feel like got the raw eggs.
I love that you said that, Robert, because I was about to say maybe a hot take, but I think in terms of like players who give them another shot and actually put them in a different situation, I thought Tracy was arguably one of the best players of the pre-merge. From what we
I wish she would have popped up in like a second.
It's Chet's fault. It's Chet's fault.
Well, like even like they win that one reward where like they get to go to the spa, and then Ozzy's like, "Can you take one for the team?" And she's like, "Are you fucking?"
And then he has the nerve to get butthurt at Tribal, where she's like, "Oh yeah, Ozzy's the leader. He's the one that says all this stuff. He made me go to exile," and he's sitting there pouting. And that's another thing that we're going to touch upon, because I talked about this during Cook Islands. I'm probably going to touch upon this during South Pacific. Ozzy sucks, but I won't go there yet.
Ozzy's like the player that the more he returned, the worse it got.
I like the Game Changers because he didn't outstay his welcome. He just kind of fucked off and said, "Hey, good luck catching fish." And it's like, dude, it's season 34. We don't care anymore. Like,
I'm still on the fact of, could you imagine what would you guys do if someone just looks at you and goes, "Can you take them for the team?" Especially seeing like you have to. That's her one downside that I saw from Tracy is you have to know the numbers at this point. It's really not rocket science. You have to see who's surrounding you. And if they said that to me, like, "Yo, can you just take one for the team?" I'd be like, "No, can you take one for the team? Hey, let's draw rocks." Just because
you're the leader.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely not. And so the fact that he was so butthurt about that, and Ozzy gets butthurt a lot during this season. I agree. And I think the thing that saves this season, because this season, I won't say it starts off slow, but it starts off slow-ish. And then the swap happens, and it's like, okay, we're off and running at this point. We have, I mean, yes, optics-wise, we have one tribe that's being completely decimated, and we have one tribe who has a quit, and I don't count, I try not to count Kathy's quit as a quit, because it was more of a mental evacuation. You know, I don't think I shouldn't count that. No one else should either. But we have a quit and we have Penner leaving, so things are always relatively even. But one tribe is still being decimated because they still have to vote out people every time. And I think that adds to the storyline of this inevitable 5-woman alliance. One thing I want to touch on, Jeff being super pissy at the Fair Play Tribal, where he's trying to get people to admit that he's quitting, and everyone's like, "No, he's not quitting. He's not quitting." And I think Jeff wanted someone to say that Fair Play was quitting so that he could be like, "Ha," and no one was, because I mean, obviously the things outside of the show where he had just had surgery and they didn't have bring medication and all that, and when his face hit the ship, like, it just kind of fucked everything up.
Come on, Yao Man.
And Yao Man sucked. But so I got it. I mean, yes, he was voted out, so I don't consider it a quit. That's the only thing I wanted to really touch on there. As we get further, and we see these building blocks of. Then further, we see these building blocks of it's going to be Penner's side or it's going to be the couple's side. And Cirie is sitting there, and she goes, and James actually says it. This is one of the only times James has actually like clocked something strategic. Cirie's sitting in the middle, and by the end of the episode, she's the one determining where everything is going. I think the season is another reason is I think the season is saved by Cirie for putting herself in that power position that early, because it almost happens again in Heroes vs. Villains before she gets idled out. This is my favorite Cirie, favorite variation of Cirie through her 4 seasons. What did we think of that initial favorites majority alliance? Were we fans of the 2 couples plus Cirie? Or do you think that she probably should have gone with the Yao Man, Penner, Eliza, and whoever else? Amy.
I think it's difficult. On paper, I think the couples alliance is the best choice, just because knowing how Amanda and James play, at least they play like loyal games. Now, 3 wouldn't have known that because I think when it started, China was only like halfway through airing. But
Yeah.
I think for her, it was kind of just like, okay, these are, you compare, and like they kind of pair off in different ways, right? Like Amanda and James were China, Ozzy Parvati were Cook Islands. Then they're in the whole dating thing. I think she was I think she was able to kind of separate them, whether it be female, male, seasons, couples, whatever. I think she knew that she would always be the swing and could essentially finagle a final 3. The other side, I don't know. I feel like Penner just had such a terrible rep that that's probably why she wanted to avoid them. And then, I mean, Yao Man didn't have a terrible rep, but Yao Man definitely had like the biggest target.
Biggest, yeah, I would say, yeah, only Yao Man probably coming into that. Of all those fans, outside of Johnny Fairplay, Yao Man is probably the biggest threat gameplay wise. If you want to look at physical threats, you can look at James and Ozzy, but it didn't look like anyone was looking at physical threats at that point. Randy?
I disagree.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Robert.
No, you're good. You're good.
It's sake of argument too. So yeah, I thought it was a really dumb decision by Suri to go with the couples alliance, just because how I look at it is you brought up the seasons that they were on. So they've already got that history playing together. And it is, I mean, blatantly obvious that these two are cuddle buddies, whatever you want to call it. Like between the 4 of them, there's 2 pairs here. So if you look at that going into that alliance, it would be clear to me that you're the 5th. You know, yeah, that you can go to the final 5, but then you have these 2 and these 2. And yeah, you'd be in the middle of that. You could kind of sway where you would go at that point in time, but you're still on the bottom of what would then be a 3-person alliance. So
thinking it's a final 3 though, but they at that point still think,
yeah. So you got me there, like thinking it's still a final 3, but that's why I thought it was such a better idea to go with Penner and Amy. You're looking at an Eliza. You're looking at an alliance made up of people who are from a bunch of different seasons, and I just felt like they did the issues with that alliance. You're right, Robert, about Penner's reputation. Yao Man is, while he's loved by everyone and you could trust him to an extent, he's seen as this idol beast who goes out and finds all these idols. And that's always going to be in the back of your mind. And it was this season. It was like, Yao Man, you know, he's already got one idol. He could easily, we can't let him go to, you know, go find another one. So you had your challenges on each, but I just thought in terms of the decision of where to go, it would have made more sense to go with, I don't know why I call them the old heads alliance, but it would have been
old heads plus Eliza and Amy.
yeah, it would have made sense to go with them because they're, you know, a group of people who've never played together, and I felt you could navigate that more than an obvious foursome with 2 pairs is how I viewed it.
So I think that and this is because this is, I mean, it's going to come off super biased because I love Suri. I think that she made the right decision only because if she goes with Penner's group, most of them are shown to be great strategists. Penner is shown on his season, Yao Man, Eliza, and Amy. If you put yourself with James, who, God, Ozzy, Amanda, who is probably the most strategic of the 4, and Parvati, who optics-wise, based off of her first season, you would assume doesn't, you put yourself in a position where you could sit here and sway people. You have a better time controlling these folks than you do having people that, you know, are thinking more strategically, are probably the more like have watched more seasons of the show and understand how the game works. And that's the only reason it annoys me watching Suri go with them, because I'm not a fan of that alliance, but it makes sense. I wasn't a fan of Kasaya, like, I was a fan of them as entertainment, but I was a fan of Kasaya and Panama. But I think that, you know, Suri sitting there and working with all those people works to her benefit because she's always going to be one step ahead of everyone because she is thinking on a different level than everybody else.
And well, I will say the other thing with that is I was fully convinced while I'm watching this play out. I'm like, come on, Suri, go with this older alliance, even though I kind of knew what happened. But I was still like, Penner's speech or the argument that happened between them. Yeah. Penner played that so poorly. It's one of the worst
Yeah.
kind of negotiate. I don't
He
negotiate.
was trying to negotiate, and she's just like, I mean, yeah, but don't act like you don't have a deal with Yao Man. And he's like, yeah, I have a deal with Yao Man, and I also have a deal with Amy, and I also have like, it's not. And she's like, yeah, at least I know where these people.
He
and
came on so strong too. It's like you
Yeah.
have to be able to read the room, especially being like a favorite return. And it felt like he was just, it was very awkward to watch because it felt like he just kept drilling. And we were sitting there as the audience being like, this is going nowhere. You might as well stop now. You've lost her. Like that was the point in time. I know everyone knows the point we're talking about. That was the point in time where it's like, okay, Suri, whether she made up her mind or not, it's done. Like I still believe at that point there was a route they could have convinced Suri to flip. It would have been tough, but I think there was still that route. But as soon as Penner kind of let it get personal to him, that's where you completely talked her out of even considering going with your alliance.
I feel like Micronesia, and we're going to touch on this. I feel like Micronesia has a lot of revisionist history.
Mm.
The main reason is everyone's, even on Heroes vs. Villains, which is only 4 seasons away at this point, Parvati led this all-conquering women's alliance, and it was because of her that all these things happened. And the reason that's revisionist is because every big move that happened at the merge was because of either Suri, Natalie, or Amanda. And this is not discrediting Parvati at all. Like, I think she's a great winner, this, that, and the other. I feel like people have continued to put her on this pedestal of just like, the way some people tell it, it's Parvati and 4 jabronis running the game, when in reality, it's an equal thing. Sometimes people didn't even put Alexis's name in there. And the one thing I noticed this time around is everyone kept saying, oh man, Alexis is going to win if she gets to the end. Alexis is going to win. Everyone kept saying that. So I don't understand how people have just kind of, especially because people constantly put Micronesia like above a lot of other seasons. I just assume that means they watch the season often enough to realize it's not just Parvati and 4 jabronis. It's Suri, Amanda, and Natalie at 3 different points during the merge. And Parvati is the one, being getting the face off, giving the confessionals about it. But when we watch them happen in real time, it's them getting back after the Eliza vote and Suri saying, hey, why don't we potentially think about voting out Ozzy because we know he has the idol. It's Natalie saying, hey, I think I can convince Jason to not play his idol, even though he would be stupid not to do it. It's Amanda and Natalie and Suri gaslighting the shit out of Eric at Final 5 to give up his immunity necklace. Parvati's not even involved in that one. I think that this was Suri's season to lose, and she does lose it. And and then you feel so horrible for her at that, like when they open that tree mail on day 38 and they see it's a challenge, and they cut to Suri's face, and you just see on her face like she knows it's done. Because she's not a challenge person. And they actually do get a challenge that she can do well in. She gets second. But once it's done, you realize once again, it's like, yeah, there's no way she's going to go to the end. Because no matter how much Parvati and Amanda say, oh yeah, Suri's really pissed off the jury, I don't buy that at all. I think that Suri easily cleans, I won't say sweep, but she easily beats both of them. I think Ozzy votes for Amanda because we'll talk about that. What did we think about Suri 2.0 here? Robert, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, no, I think it was. I think she came into the game way more confident, and it's interesting because she wasn't targeted, even though she played such a powerful game in Panama, right? I think she was able to turn off targets on the more challenged threats, but I think she came to play since like day one. And you're right. I think I love Parvati. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like after Micronesia, but Parvati's best game is Heroes vs. Villains. I think is the comment. I think you have a good point that everyone likes. We know that Parvati's a great player, but it's Heroes vs. Villains is where she like masterminded everything. She did great in Micronesia, don't get me wrong, and I think she's the rightful winner of the final 2. But yeah, it's like Suri. It's just cool because Suri comes off after having this like unique storyline of being the couch potato who got off the couch to go play Survivor and almost was voted out like day 3, day 4, and then was able to make it to Final 4. Gets out at Final Four, and then I believe fire making, right?
Fire making, yeah.
Fire making, and then comes in, and then it's tough seeing her go at 3. But no, I think she played the strongest game. Because I think about it, if you look at the fans, I think Yao Man had the biggest target, and then I feel like Suri had the next biggest target, but she was able to kind of push it on other people. Yeah.
No, I mean, this is exactly what you want to see from a returning player. Like someone who literally knows what they did wrong in their first season, comes back and fixes it. And she knew the first season, in my opinion, and I think she knew this as well, her biggest weakness was she didn't play quite as aggressive. It was more about getting to know the game of Survivor and learning how to adapt and all that. And she came into this game being, you said it right away, I want to control this game. I want to make this my narrative. And she did a great job the entire game. And it was absolutely heartbreaking when she found out it wasn't going to be a final 3, because I also think that she runs away with this. We'll get to like the final tribal council, the speeches and all that. But I think if it was a final 3, you put Suri, I don't even care if they all played the same game. I think Suri outspeaks both of them. And I think she runs away with it in the end. And this is what gave her the title of the best player to never win the game, which is how everybody looks at her.
Thank goodness for the traders, right? Spoilers for anyone that hasn't watched traders yet. Thank goodness there are no challenges that actually matter in the traders.
I was here being like, you guys are spoiling heroes versus villains. That's still one of the seasons I've never seen. I know.
Whoa.
It's still that because I had to go back and watch it. So
he's from South Pacific. Yeah, that's
I know I know we're talking Micronesia right now, but I'm currently watching Token Change for the first time, which is the comment you made earlier off air. That's why I was like, it's 2 different seasons. But yeah, so I still have Token Change to South Pacific, and now I'm excited to watch Heroes versus Villains Parvati after what Robert said.
And I will briefly touch on Heroes vs. Villains Parvati when we get on the Parvati part of this. Quickly before we move on, I think Amy is the Brenda Lowe of this season, as far as like Brenda was a big character in Nicaragua, and she's purple in this season. Amy is basically non-existent until her last 2 episodes. Like, you don't hear anything from Amy the entire time, which is crazy because she is one of the main characters on Vanuatu. She's a person in charge. On screen is in charge of the Women's Alliance. So I did feel, especially watching it like this, it's always interesting to see how people's edits change in such a short amount of time. I know these are like years apart, but for me, Vanuatu was last week. So it's a lot different watching it this way. This is also the second Penner season in a row that I lose it, like cry over something that happens with him, because in the first season in Cook Islands, I just forgot that his wife actually visited him, and everyone knows, his wife ended up passing from ALS. And so that broke me when they had their family visit there. And then this time his medevac is so sad. It's so sad. James somehow keeps his in. I don't understand how, probably because he doesn't care. But Penner, it really got me. And I know, I know that he had this, I don't want to say negative edit in Cook Islands, but he was definitely more on the villain-ish side of things because of the mutiny. I think this is probably my favorite version of Penner, which is ironic because he lasts longer in Philippines. And I just enjoy everything he does this season. And I was glad they brought him back. We don't really have to touch any more on that. Okay, y'all, we're going to talk about Chet. Because I think we're gonna go down the Chet avenue for a bit. Now, I know earlier we had people in the comments and also us say, hey, we don't think all these fans were fans. I can't speak for Chet because I don't know if Chet was an actual fan or not, but I'd bet like $5 that he wasn't. What are our thoughts on Chet, and what are our real thoughts on? I know we touched on the fans earlier, but like outside of do we think there was anybody there that actually could have made some noise in a different type of situation if the fans had actually like stuck together? Because I do think there's a couple people that I think showed merit outside of Tracy. Chet is not one of them. What are our thoughts on Chet?
He has my favorite line from the entire season. Okay, maybe this is just like maybe I need to lay all the like lines and quotes out because there's a lot of good ones. But it was during the iconic tag challenge, where Chet obviously is being dragged around by Joel, and they just lose another challenge. And Chet goes, "I hit my head back there," and Joel goes, "I don't care," and Chet just goes, "I know."
I know. I know.
Yeah.
And I know it's like some people are going to look at that and be like, oh my God, that's so sad. Like, that's so mean. And I agree, it's not the best look, but I lost it in that moment. I love the dynamic between Joel and Chet. And I thought Chet was, I wish we saw Chet play again just for the entertainment purpose. I'll put it out there just for
to each their own. Robert.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely like one of my favorite moments of Micronesia. Yeah, I don't know, Chess. Like, it's a really interesting. I mean, definitely like I think Tracy's definitely like one or two. It's really interesting because I remember it starts with like Tracy, Kathy, and Chet like making their own camp almost. So it's like, okay, there's your 1, 2, 3 boots. Like boot Chet first, then Kathy, then Tracy, whatever, and then they're able to get Mary out, and then they're able to, I think, Mikey out.
Mikey,
and so it's, and then yeah, it's interesting. I don't. Yeah,
I would have loved to see Mikey go for it.
Yeah, Mikey and Tracy are the two that I feel like could have actually made noise, because I do feel like both of them understood the game. I feel like both of them were actual fans.
And then Eric, I mean, you have to say Eric had like dominating performances. Both, and there's like one where he like, I think he like picks up Amanda and like throws her on the ground
during that challenge. My God, yeah, they were killing each other.
Yeah, so it's it's always a good question, like what if Final Five didn't happen, and then could Eric have?
Well, I know the answer. Eric would have won the game if Final Five didn't happen.
And I don't want to jump the gun too much. I guess no, we won't, because Final Five is like a whole thing.
My bad.
But Final Five, I was gonna just go straight to it, but like no, Final Five is the whole thing. Everyone that listened to the Cook Islands one, no matter when you listen to it, everyone knows my opinions on Ozzy.
Yeah.
You love him, right?
Ozzy are. He's a great challenge person, and outside of that, I think that this season, as people in the comments have mentioned, he came in very arrogant, and almost everything he said came off as annoying to me, based on like when he gets called out by Tracy at the tribal, and he's just like, I'm not a leader, and she's a liar and all this other stuff. When he gets him and James antagonize Eliza at one point when she's like sick, and that was weird. But once again, I don't think either one of them understand the social aspect of the game at this point. I think that when he gets voted out, and he has the Big Tom from All Stars moment where he like turns back and stares down everyone, and then fucks off forever. Thank goodness. And then him flipping off everyone comes into tribal, and his final tribal speech. And this, I'm all right with jumping this gun, because his final tribal speech, in my opinion, more than Amanda pouting or blah blah blahing to her speeches, I think this is what costs Amanda in the end, is Ozzy just putting on one of the worst. It's so bad, and it's so cringy. And I feel like that would turn off a lot of people, because he's up there showboating when he should be trying to make sure that Amanda is like, he should be doing everything as possible to make sure that Amanda wins. And that's not how you do it, in my opinion. You don't go up there and make everything about y'all and you make it about her. You speak to her positives, and you loving her is not really a positive. Like, that's just a thing. I know that Ozzy has a big fandom, and like outside the show, I think he's great. From everything I've heard, Ozzy seems like a great guy outside the show. Subscribe to his OnlyFans if you guys want. I don't, but like I know he has one. What are our thoughts on Ozzy 2.0?
Yeah, for Eric, right? Because like I was thinking of the fans. Like if I had to rate like top 3 fans, I feel like it's hard. I think Natalie, then maybe Tracy as a close second, but I almost have to give like Eric third, just because I think he had the social game, right? You look at Maokai 2.0 and it was fan after fan after fan getting voted out. And then he was able to flip the vote on Amy, which is pretty impressive. And then he was really great physically. So I don't know if it's just in general the fans weren't that great, so he stood out, but I think he was a decent player. He just got played later on. But yeah, I mean he has some pretty interesting challenge.
Robert, I brought up Ozzy.
Yeah, but you said Ozzy 2.0, and it just made me think of Eric.
No, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
but no, yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah.
To your original point, probably should have.
I was ready to answer both questions. I was going to answer Eric.
Yeah,
Eric
that's my
Robert
fault.
And Ozzy.
No,
that
you're
totally
good.
Just went right over
like,
my.
Eric kind of seemed like it, but no. To your point, Ozzy 2.0, he did seem kind of arrogant to the point where like. I think he knew he came in being one of the most popular players, like in terms of the fandom, right? He's a good-looking guy. He had like almost a hero-esque role. He like just lost by 1 vote. And then I saw the comment.
I did not watch it. Oh no, I did watch that episode because I wanted to see Ozzy on there, but like no, like I'm not subscribed to his other.
I love that. Yeah, I think he just was more of an asshole. I think he came in with a chip on his shoulder, where he was more endearing in Cook Islands, and in Micronesia he was kind of a dick, and then he leaves in like a really amazing blindside. I mean, Eliza was like losing her shit during that. And then yeah, his final travel comment was just like so odd. And then like most Survivor romances, they don't last.
Fizzled out. Randy.
I am a member of Ozzy's fan club. I really like watching him play. But going into this season, I didn't mind how he played pre-merge and early on, like kind of leading the whole, like, I know at times they're like, this is the Ozzy show. I was okay with that. I said, I agree with it. Ozzy does want to make this all about him, but it's fine. But the end game for him, how he left and then on, it was almost, I was so disappointed. I was sitting there and I was just like, man, let it go. Like I get being petty. I do. I get it. But he was beyond petty. I was like, and I think it's just, I meant to say this earlier when we were talking about, when we were getting into this season, Survivor had obviously taken off. It was obviously a super popular thing. I think this is the season that started what Survivor is nowadays, with the blind sides, with the idol plays and all this strategy. I think this is when Survivor skyrocketed and took off. And I just don't think Ozzy was ready for it. Because back then, blind sides, yes, we've seen blind sides in the earlier seasons, but we haven't seen such cutthroat ones that we did in Micronesia, or at least not a lot of them.
Yeah, and it's usually a blind side and then go back to the status quo. We deal with an issue and then we go back to the status quo and then we move on. Yeah.
And I just don't think Ozzy was prepared. Ozzy was thinking classic Survivor. This alliance is going to the end, no questions asked. And he did
went to the final four, yeah.
Yeah. And he just didn't see it coming. And when it was against him, he didn't know how to handle it. And he just handled it completely the wrong way. And yeah, that final question, that was something. I think I just literally watched it with my jaw on the floor and just couldn't say a word.
And we're gonna get to this question in a second, so I'm keeping it on screen. But someone else brought it up earlier. Oh no, it's right here. Thankfully, I can just go right back to that. Ozzy's like the election all-stars, just upset for being voted out, and that's exactly how I felt watching it this time.
Yeah.
Because, and I went off on this when I did the all-stars thing last week. Of everyone thought they were playing Friend Viver, except for Rob and like 2 other people, Sheehan being one of them, and all of a sudden, Rob's voting out all of his friends, and they get pissed off, and they take it out on him at Final Tribal. Like, whatever, Amber should have won because the winner always deserves to win. I was always more annoyed at how the jury handled Rob at that Final Tribal, because they brought their friendship into something that had nothing to do with friends. And watching Rob's face realize, hey, I'm losing friends because I played them in a game was very uncomfortable. Ozzy in that season would have been one of those folks. Yes, because here, everyone else's speeches, you know, I mean, Eliza's calling, telling Amanda that she wanted to kill herself every time she spoke. Like, I don't think that was a, I don't think that was a personal, like, we're friends in real life thing. Everything that Ozzy said to Parvati was just like, you sold out your friends for money and this and the other. Basically, Lex. And it just, we're 8 seasons past All Stars. Why are we still doing this? Especially on this type of season. Once again, I understand Ozzy fanboys and girls and everyone else. I get it. I've just never been, I've never gotten on that train just because every time I've watched them outside of Game Changers, it's just like, wow, this guy's really arrogant. And everyone hypes him up as like this being this heroic person. It's like, yeah, he's heroic because he was the physical person of the I-24. That's really it. Like, outside of that, I would say that Ozzy's kind of a villain through his Survivor history. But going to the question, would Cirie have beaten Eric in the final 2, or did Cirie need to get Eric out, I'm assuming, to give up. Oh, no, it's Eric to give up his necklace in order to get her legendary status. Okay, so do I think we can do round robin with this, but I think that Cirie probably beats everyone at final 5, maybe even final 6, maybe in final 7.
Even Alexis, even though how many people, that's the one that I'm kind of worried.
I think that would be the closest one. I think if it remains a final 2, let's say that James does get evacuated and we end up having that final 2, which means we have our final 6 of what it is. I think that Cirie's closest game would come against Alexis. I think that Eric hadn't done anything screwy yet. And yes, we're assuming a lot of crazy things happened between 6 and 2. But if we just go based off their games up till 6, I think Eric was playing a pretty good game. For him to not have been in any type of majority alliance, and has still made its final 6, and people liked him and people were celebrating him winning a challenge because it was his birthday and all that. I think that Cirie's closest win or loss would be against Alexis. I think everyone else at final 6, she probably blows out. Robert, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, if Cirie would beat everyone.
I think so. Specifically Eric.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think like 6, Alexis goes, or if anyone goes, I think okay, if we go to 5, Natalie probably is the one that leaves, and if Cirie does make it to 2, I think she wins. I think she's up against Amanda. Amanda probably gets Ozzy vote, maybe gets Parvati's vote because they were so close. If she goes up against Parvati, I think Parvati gets Amanda's vote, maybe. But I think I think everyone else over. I feel like all of the fans would vote for her. I think all the favorites minus. I think Ozzy's always going to vote for Amanda, and he's always going to vote against Parvati. I just feel like she wins.
I definitely think Cirie beats Eric. I actually don't think it's close. Mainly because even though Eric played a good game, especially being at the bottom a lot of times and being able to navigate his way from the bottom, I've never seen Eric as a great speaker. And I'm kind of taking that into effect too when I'm thinking of who's going to give the better final tribal council speech, who's going to lay their game out better. I almost feel like Cirie would wipe the floor with Eric in that circumstance, and I just see Eric, especially because of how naive he was at that time, at that age. I think there would be a lot of stumbling. I think there would be a lot of corrections coming from the jury on points that Eric would make. So I don't think it'd be close. And then do you want me to go ahead and answer the second part of that about the legendary status?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I feel like Cirie is a legend no matter, like,
at that point, like, not given what she's done, obviously going out later on, being the only person who doesn't have.
I feel like Cirie going into Heroes vs. Villains is a legend. Like,
okay, that's a fair point.
yeah, I feel like because here's his villain. She's pre-merge. Spoiler, sorry. She's
No,
pre-merge.
like I said, I know everything. I just haven't watched it play out. Yeah.
She's pre-merge. So like when she comes back for Game Changers, she's got only her Panama and Micronesia seasons as like all timers. So I do feel like she's a legend no matter what coming out of this season, if not anything else other than the Aussie blindside and her like basically wheeling and dealing her way through the game. Now the necklace thing, I feel like solidified it. Yes, I
Yeah, I
so
was gonna say, if you
yeah.
take that necklace thing away, does Cerise still get like? Yeah, I think she's still looked at as a legend. I don't think it takes away the status, but it is interesting to be like in a what if world. What if she didn't have that move and it was just a basic elimination? Eric didn't win immunity; they vote him out. There isn't that mastermind of a move. Like, how could that affect her legacy? I don't know. Do we look at Suri and be like, oh, Suri, the player who got the necklace? Not really. Like, it's one of her moves.
It's one of her. Yeah, it's one of her. It's
Yeah.
she's the 3-2-1 from Panama.
Yeah.
She's the necklace and the Aussie and being a part of the Jason thing. She's the game changer. She got Sareed out. What we say in the horror community. I do think that. Yeah, that's why I try not to fantasy book things here because like you start thinking of a whole bunch of different variables and like does Parvati become a legend at this point and all that. Okay, we're making it through.
That's
Yesterday
one last thing. That's
please.
Okay, think about it. Think about if Suri wins. I think Parvati still goes on to Heroes vs. Villains, right?
Yes.
Parvati then win Heroes vs. Villains.
No.
Would it be an easier case? Would more people be willing to play with her so she doesn't have to play with Russell?
So okay, so
that opens up way too many.
If we want to meta this, we can meta this for a second, but like, no, can we please not? Because my brain is.
Yeah, my brain's
Are we ready to go down this rabbit hole right now?
But we will touch on Parvati here because, and I brought it up earlier. I think that Parvati is an all-timer. This, that, and the other. She is great. I do think in that alliance. We as an audience are trained to think that she's like the head honcho because she's the one giving the confessionals. But everything that we're seeing in person, like we're seeing on screen, is basically everyone else doing it. Yes, she does get her, Natalie, Alexis, Amanda, and Suri together. That is, it looks like, it's shown that is how that happened. And it does look like she was the one that got her, James, Ozzy, Amanda, Suri together. It's shown that happens. I think that throughout this season, and Eliza brings it up at Final Tribal, and I think this is why she loses Heroes versus Villains, is that sometimes she does come off like a cool kid. Let's keep it nice and say like a cool kid. And Eliza even brings it up when she says, hey, I respect the game you played, this, that, and the other. I don't respect the fact that you were saying all this bad shit about me behind my back, this, that, and the other. And from what I have heard, what I have read about the Heroes versus Villains jury is they didn't like like a lot of stuff that Parvati did around camp once they merged. Certain things like she would just randomly break out the JT letter and read it to everyone and laugh about it and like basically mock the kid after they had sent him home. It's like, yeah, I see how that might antagonize people to the point where they don't want to vote for her. I think that Parvati is a great villain this season. I actually understand how she's the villain in Heroes vs. Villains and how Amanda and Suri are put on the heroes because they are, I guess, more Amanda than Suri. Suri you can probably put on either one, but Amanda I can definitely see how you put on the heroes tribe because she does pout her way through the entire game. And once again, we will get to the Amanda of it all. What do we think of this? Of Parvati as a whole this season? Do you think that it is revisionist history, or do you think that there is the people, whoever the others out there, are right in analyzing her game this season?
I can start with that one. I think she still should have her. I think she won. I I think she won a tough game. 20 people, final 2, like lots of hoops. Helped organize a lot of great blindsides. I think she's an amazing player. And I also think too, like, I think what helps with Micronesia especially is if I'm looking at the 10 favorites, she's number 9, number 10 in terms of like who should be there. Like, so while we were talking, I pulled up, you know how like people used to win America's favorite Survivor player. So like Ozzy won his season, James won his season. James actually won Micronesia also.
Micronesia's, yeah.
Odd. He won back to back. So it's like, okay, maybe that's why these players are here. But like, I think for me, Parvati going from, I would say like number 9, maybe number 8 in the favorites to winning and playing this amazing, you know, strong game, making a strong alliance. Because we have to think about it. She's the one who pulled in Natalie and Alexis.
She is.
She, I think, is the first person to jump favorites fans' tribe lines and pull them in. And I think if Irai would have lost some of those the second half of the pre-merge, we would have saw some interesting things unfold. But I think she played a great game. I still think Heroes and Villains cements her as like legend, but she's still one of the strongest winners.
I think Parvati played an incredible game up until the last couple votes, only because, and this is how I look at it, and again, this is probably gonna be a hot take. I'm full of those. To make a long story short, you brought it up earlier, Coach, how it was Cerie's move to kind of to get Eric to give up his Cirie and Natalie to get him to give up that necklace. I felt like Parvati kind of took a back seat when the Black Widow Brigade started moving, you know, getting some of these people out of the game. And then I felt like she didn't have much competition in that final 2 final tribal council. And I also felt like her speech wasn't terrific. Like I was kind of watching it and I was like, ooh, so this is kind of, who do we like better? Because they're both kind of sucking here. So
yeah.
Am I going to sit here and say that she's not deserving, not one of the best winners, not one of the best players we've seen play this game? Absolutely not. I would be dragged through the streets by Survivor fans all over the world. I'm just saying that I think her win is a little overrated due to the fact that I felt like she had a weak end game, but it was her pregame, or it was her pre-merge and the beginning of the merge that really solidified her in that power position. So you could make the argument that she had the ability to take a step back because she put this, you know, she built the castle that took her to the end of the game. But that's kind of how I see it.
No, I think that's a very fair assessment of her game there. And when I had Phil from the Specialist come on for Cook Islands, he brought up the fact that how do people continuously put Parvati as one of the top 2 or 3 greatest players of all time when she has lost at a final tribal before? And, you know, and we'll talk about that in 4 days. And I do agree. And I do feel like even in this season that if Amanda was a better public speaker and didn't pout her way through, that Amanda probably, even James even goes up there and says, Amanda, you've got this wrapped up, which I just thought was the most arrogant thing that you could say in that situation. I think that Parvati is an all-timer. I just wish it was Cirie. That, like, literally when you brought up earlier, like, oh, I wouldn't change anything, and I alluded to, oh yeah, I would change one thing. Obviously, that's what I was talking about. Like, I would have Cirie win this season because this was Cirie's season to win, and it's so sad watching her lose that challenge because everyone knows what's going to happen. No one
goes on to not win again and again. Like this, it is sad to look at it as this was your chance.
This was her chance, and she even brings up like I'm a nurse. I have steady hands, and I couldn't hold on to the damn thing. Amanda just talked about Amanda yesterday, and we talked about how that final 3 was a prime final 3 because any one of them could win. Because Todd put on a great performance, Todd ends up winning, but Amanda probably played the better game, but because she powdered her way through Final Tribal and felt like everyone was just going to be towards Todd, she ends up getting 3rd, and Courtney, of all people, got 2nd. And I love Courtney. Amanda's pretty much the same this time around, where I feel like Amanda does once again play a great social game, Everyone loves Amanda. Alexis and Natalie try to get rid of Amanda at Final 6 because they feel like she's the biggest threat. And at Final 4, she gets kneecapped. Oh, no, Final 3, she gets kneecapped by... No, 4, because I'm thinking of Natalie. She gets kneecapped by Cirie when she says... when Cirie says, oh, yeah, like, I feel like I've been on the bottom of all my alliances. Amanda speaks up in the wrong moment and says... oh, why did you feel like you were on the bottom? And she's like, I'm not stupid. Like, I know that I've been on the bottom of every alliance that we've had. And Amanda cries and pouts her way. And then they get back to camp and they have the argument. And Amanda's crying and saying that's bullshit. And then they go and she sits there and cries before she votes out Cirie. And a few people call her out on it at Final Tribal where it's like, everyone's kind of laughed at you because it's like, why are you putting on such a performance when you always do this? You're always pouting. PG calls her out in China. Like, you just always have this sad look on your face. And I honestly don't think she's putting on a performance. I just think she's just a pouter. I'm going to keep this question up here so I don't forget it. Don't pay attention to it right now. Amanda at Final Tribals. This is her thing. You know, she gets... do we feel like there was a way for her to win this specific season sitting at the end? Let's say that Parvati says and does the exact same things. Do you think there is a way for Amanda to pull out 2 more votes because she loses 5-3 and she gets James, Ozzy, who are bitter people, and so they're always going to vote for her, and Eric, who I really don't understand how he voted for her, but like, fine, he voted for her. Do you think there's a way she could pull in 2 more votes?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if Parvati does it the same way. Like I said, this was one of the worst Final Tribal Councils that I remember. I just felt like there wasn't a lot of good questions. I felt like there wasn't a lot of...
Natalie wants to sleep with Parvati, so like, chill out.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of confident answers. Like, I was literally sitting there and I was like, come on, let's have confidence. I just felt like it was not well spoken. I think the key vote was that Eliza vote because we saw her, or the edit made it seem like she was there for a minute trying to decide, which means her vote was definitely up in the air. You can make the argument about how some of the people on the jury, obviously people like Ozzy, had their vote. They already knew going in who they were going to vote for. There was no changing it whatsoever. I think Natalie Bolton was going to vote for Parvati no matter what as well. So yeah, that's how I saw it. The Eliza vote was the one that you needed to get. And I think she would have obviously that would have tied it, and then we would have went down that route. But I think Amanda just needed to speak with more confidence to get Eliza's vote. If she would have owned up to her game, I think that vote was there for the taking. Also, I'm just going to get my chair real fast. So I'm going to come. Okay. Yeah.
Robert.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you too, because I think you go into that. One thing I will say about Parvati is I think at Final 5, Eric, I'm not sure. I think everyone at Final 5 was taking Parvati. I feel like Parvati had her just because of her social connections, but also because I think people were like, oh, I can probably beat her because she's not as well liked. But yeah, I look at that tribal council. There's 8 votes, but you're right. I think Amanda has James and Ozzy locked, and I think Parvati has Natalie and Alexis locked. So you're really just vying over 4 votes. And I think if she would have answered Cirie's question better, she could have locked in Cirie. And I think she probably could have locked in Eliza by proxy. So I think those are the 2 that she fumbled. But she fumbled Cirie's question so bad. Parvati answered it great. Cirie was looking for it to be like, you couldn't beat me. If Amanda just would have said, I couldn't beat you. You played the best game. You were well liked by the jurors. I would have voted for you to win over anyone in this game. I think she could have locked Cirie down, and I think she would have locked Eliza down. But you're right. The pouting is like, I love Amanda. She was my favorite person from China and Micronesia. But yeah, it's interesting because it's like you thought she would have learned.
She's droopy.
Yeah, you thought she would have learned from China, but I did read this rumor once that Amanda thought she won China and Micronesia because how it filmed, they filmed back to back.
Shit. Oh, and my bad. Shoot.
Yeah, China live finale airs after China and Micronesia, which I will say I have to give Amanda props from playing back-to-back seasons because that's so tough on your body. I mean, she does make the comment. She's like, Survivor's been my life. Because I think she only had 3-4 weeks to recover. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen her win. I really think it was the surreal.
Honestly, and I said this yesterday, going into that final tribal, for China, I would have voted for Amanda. Yeah. After watching them do it, I voted for Todd or Courtney. And here, going in, I probably would have voted for Amanda.
It was her game to win, and she fumbled it.
I mean, we see James sitting there saying, "You've got this. You got this wrapped up," and it's like, dude, what?
And, especially because it's like Parvati, I think, does an okay final tribal, and it's interesting because it's Amanda.
She doesn't. She knows who. She knows she's not getting James's, so she fucks around with that question. Yeah. She knows she's not getting Ozzy's, and Ozzy tells her not to talk. Eliza does kind of, attack her. Yeah. Sari, was fine. Everyone else was fine with their questions towards her. It was mainly everyone trying to get Amanda to please just do something we can.
And I wonder too, Jason, I wonder how he decided to vote. If they just told him who to vote for. But I read that Kathy has an AMA read. You guys need to read it because Kathy goes into detail why she quit and everything she went through. But someone asked her about Jason, and she's like, "He's a fucking asshole." Apparently he's a dick. So, I wonder how he would have voted. But I do think I think she lost it on her own. And then it's funny. I know, Brandy, you said you haven't watched Heroes vs. Villains. Her first tribal council at Heroes vs. Villains is the most elegant and best speaking she ever does in a tribal. And it's it took you 2 full games to get there.
Hey, they learn eventually. Is this wild to say? Is Amanda Kimmel a worse version of Michelle Fitzgerald?
Yes. No, it's not crazy to say that. No, it's not crazy to say that.
No, it's not crazy.
Both incredibly social players. Both made it to the end. Both time or the first two times they played.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Michelle Fitzgerald plays with the confidence where she gets to that final speech and she owns up her game. This is how I got here. This is why I deserve to win, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. While Amanda, that's probably the one flaw in her game is she doesn't know. She plays with emotion, which is fine. You can play with emotion, but you've got to be able to, own up to it. Yeah, I'm a very emotional player. This is me. But at the same time, you have to have the confidence to own up to your actual gameplay moves, which I don't think Amanda has got that in her first 2 seasons of play.
We've seen winners cry at the end. We've seen winners cry, or people that eventually win cry at the end and still get people's votes. You can be emotional, but I feel like people just thought Amanda was being so disingenuous, which I don't think is the case. I do feel like that is actually her. It just comes off as fake.
Yeah, no, the Michelle Amanda. I think Amanda played a stronger second game than Michelle did. I don't know. I actually have never seen Winners at War. I've read everything about it. I know Michelle votes in the minority a lot.
Well, if you want to do Winners at War, we'll be doing it on the 4th or something.
Yeah. But I think that's a good comparison though.
That is, I agree with that comparison.
They're both socially good players. They fly under the radar and that's the funny thing about Amanda is she has the ability because of how the airing worked, but she kind of played a copy paste game from China.
Yeah.
Find 2 really close allies, go to the end of them, fly under the radar. But yeah, it's on paper she's such a great player, right? 2 full seasons of no valid votes, really strong at immunity challenges. First female to successfully play an idol, first person to hit 100 days. She has all these cool milestones, and then it's but never won.
But and we'll get to that a little later. There's only a couple more things I have on my list. Obviously, this season is full of question. God.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, what exactly did Alexis do to earn the win? I don't remember her being a great player. Granted, it's been 15 years. Okay, so Alexis isn't really. She runs into the fans' trap of they don't show her much, but a lot of the content it's very similar to Erica in 41, where a lot of content of other people talking about her is people saying she will win if she gets to the end. And even during rites of passage, when they're collecting the torches, all three of them, when they pick up Alexis' torch, say Alexis would have won if she got to the end. So, I mean, we're not seeing everything, and like they definitely do. Of the Black Widow Brigade, she is definitely the fifth as far as screen time once they get together. But I do feel like if everyone is saying that, there's probably something happening out there that we are not seeing that would lead people to consistently say throughout the season, Alexis is going to win the season. So I know I've had that question waiting forever, but I want to quickly go back to Natalie Bolton. Yes, she's purple for all of pre-merge.
Yeah.
At the merge, she has 2 episodes where she's the main character. It's the Jason vote out and it's the Eric vote out. Have we seen a character up to this point in Survivor's history, or just ever, where 2 episodes have put them in, I won't say legendary status, because whatever, but put them in stand-up status? Outside of maybe Jelinski from the
Oh my god! I was literally about to make that joke. I was literally about to be like the Jelinski count. The man was in
so not counting pre-mergers, like not counting not counting first boots, because there are a couple first boots that are like that have fandoms.
Francesca.
Outside of first boots, is Natalie Bolton one of the only people that has basically a 2-episode story arc that we put on a pedestal of like all these other players? Because like they had her come out for Heroes versus Villains. She got cut, but they had her come out because, you know, they looked at her. And I think that at her 2 episodes that she was really good in, or that she was shown more in, she is a great villain. What's the question? The question would be, is it warranted?
You know, I think so, because I think it's she was kind of in the background, obviously, but I think a lot of it's personality based. I will say that. I just remember that's the most iconic auction. I'm sure there's auctions that had way more like better stuff, but like she wins that chocolate cake and then she's like, I'm aggro. And then she sends like Jason to exile and she's like, I don't know why he's tripping. And like she's like,
I don't know why he's tripping.
And then like her confessionals are just like so hilarious, and she's like, what shows like I think like flossing like some like neck muscle with her teeth, like
jugular,
jugular, has like the wildest confessionals. And I think it's, you have in that cast, you have like, I think Parvati's definitely like a villain, but you have Natalie who's a villain and owning it, like full on owning it, would not deny it, because Parvati, like I didn't know this, Parvati actually was gonna originally be on the Heroes tribe, and I can see how you can kind of like drive her to be on the Heroes, but like Natalie 100% villain.
Candace is on the Hero tribe, so
yeah, right. But like Natalie 100% villain, and you're right, it is when you look, because I did a rewatch last year, it's like, where is she up until that auction? And then she has like a couple stints and then kind of just fizzles out. But I love her, she's great.
She's definitely a character. I'm shocked. To avoid looking stupid, correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously there's still those 5-6 seasons that I haven't seen. This is the only time she's played, right?
Yeah.
That kind of shocks me. That she has not, done another season. But she was definitely a character and definitely played the villain arc very well in those 2 episodes that she got the edit. Like, could you imagine Natalie Bolton in today's world saying some of the stuff in confessionals that she did, especially with social media as prominent as it is and stuff like that? She was ruthless.
A little bitch.
Yeah, she was ruthless. She did not. I think the nicest thing she said in confessional,
Mom, she hugged her.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But it was when she's like talking about their plan, the Black Widow Brigade's plan, and she's like, we're not voting Eric out today because it's his birthday. And I know everyone thinks that women are conniving and evil and stuff, but we do have a heart. And I think that was the nicest. I was like, it was another funny quote from the season when she's like, no matter what, one of these 2 is going home today. just not Eric because it's his birthday today. So we're gonna actually let him stay in the game. And she's definitely someone that I want to see play again. Like I just want to see if anything's changed. You know, a more mature Natalie.
Natalie Bolton, in her
Yeah.
40s at this point. So yeah. Couple more things before we get to our final two things. The season is full of memes. The two biggest memes are one, it's a fucking stick, which we don't even really have to talk about. It's such an iconic scene. It's a fucking stick we'll live on forever. And it made me fall in love with Eliza. It took me 2 seasons, or well, two of her seasons for me to be like, I think I'm in love with this woman.
Would you guys have believed that that's the idol though?
No. And that's the thing.
like,
I thought about this time around. I thought about it that too. I'm so glad you brought that up, because we are 4 Guatemala to now seasons into this whole idol thing. I get it. I honestly do. And even in my head, like I always imagine Jason saying it has a face on it. This time I actually paid attention like to what the face on the stick, and it's literally just a stick. Like it's not even like Ozzy probably used his fingernail to like put 2 little eyes, and it wasn't like drawn on. It was just this. No. And the fact that Eliza clocked it, idols didn't even exist in Vanuatu, and Eliza clocks it that fast. No, absolutely not. I can't give Jason any.
Would you have played it? Like,
I would have played it just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Robert?
I loved it. Yeah, I love how she's just like, it's a fucking stick, and then she like Eliza's very, for as like wild, for lack of better words, Eliza can be. She is very self-aware, so she knows she's going. She knows it's game over for her. She's done everything she can, so she's just like, I'm gonna. But she's also a little petty, so that's why she on her way out, she's like, I knew it. I stick, and then she's like, Ozzy has it. Bye guys, and then leaves. Eliza's interesting because I've mentioned it a lot, but the whole like second half of the pre-merge, I feel like Eliza would probably be the first person to be booted if they were to go to tribal, because I feel like Parvati would be like, let me pull in the fans, flip on her, bye.
Yeah. Eric, okay, so and then the second meme is Eric. Watching it this time, so every season I've like watching this like this, I've been trying to pay attention to players outside of like the main people, just to like pay attention to their storylines. And Eric's storyline, we've touched on it already, but like he was shown as a pretty good player throughout this season, and he is shown as a comp beast. And then in his final episode, not even before he even gives the necklace away, I tweeted this out earlier. It just becomes a comedy of errors of just he can't do anything right this episode, where they get back to camp and Amanda's like, I can't believe you voted for me. He's letting Amanda guilt trip him. And so then him and Natalie have this idea that one of them should probably get the idol because it's the fans versus the favorites again. And he wins, and he sends Parvati to Exile Island, and he takes Amanda on the on the reward trip and sends Natalie back to camp. Now you've pissed off the only person that might try to work with you at this point. He wins the challenge, and it's fun foreshadowing because 2 or 3 episodes beforehand, someone says, "Oh, would you give up the necklace?" And he was like, "I'm not that stupid," or whatever. And then they get here, and Natalie's like, I think, and he's like, I don't even want to entertain that idea. And she actually is able to get him to do it. It's a fun jump from Eric episodes 1 through 13 to Eric in 13, because you don't see it coming, and that's probably a production decision of like, we don't want to portray him as a fool. Because when it happens, we want you to all be surprised. Do we think it's fair that he's only looked at as the guy that gave away the necklace? Whatever fair means.
Yeah, I think he.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember there is. I'll have to find it and send it to you all. But there is like long, in-depth thing. During 2020 COVID times, they do like this long, in-depth of the final 5. They interview Natalie, they interview all 5 of them and like what was going on. And it just shows that all Survivor's ultimately a social game. But him being branded as I think I don't know. There's the top 3 worst moves are always James being voted out with 2 idols, which happens again, I think, to someone else. That move, JT in 20. Yeah, I don't know. I think it is on paper because it's like you never give up immunity. But I do remember, like in Amazon, Jenna gives up immunity. She's fine. So as a fan, he probably was like, "Oh, there's a small track record." I think he's a good sport because he held his head high. So I give him that. I think it's always going to be his game. But
yeah, we gotta as a Survivor community, we gotta let the man rest, but that doesn't mean we can't still acknowledge what was the dumbest move in the history of Survivor. I mean, I felt more bad on the reunion show when they were just drilling it into him. I'm like, oh my Lord. And like, even when you thought they were done. Yeah, even when you thought they were done with it, then he goes to James and he's like, okay, James, being someone who also did a dumb move, do you think he's the dumbest survivor ever or whatever? And it was ruthless. But yeah, so long story short, it was obviously a dumb move. I think Eric does win the game if he does not. I just have a feeling. I know it's like I might be contradicting myself because I said Suri would wipe the floor with Eric if they were the final 2, but no one. The challenges weren't even close. If I know you just watched it, Coach, Robert, this season. If you guys are watching and you've only seen the season once, like I've only seen it once, I'll say that, but go back and watch those challenges. They were not close.
He's blowing everyone out.
He would have won final 4 easily.
Yeah, he would have made it to the finale. It just matters on who he takes to the finale. And I just pray he's smart enough to know not to take Suri, because I think if he takes anybody else, he does have a shot. I think
if he takes Natalie, if he takes Amanda, I think that's the closest, because I don't know which one of y'all said it, but it doesn't look like he's like the best talker. And that's the type of situation you want to go to. You want to sit next to Amanda in that situation because it's Amanda. If you sit next to Natalie, I feel like Natalie would have. That's the problem, is they would have the Black Widows as 4 votes, or they would have them as 4 votes already.
Yeah, I don't know if he could beat Natalie.
So that's the problem that Eric would run into with everyone, is like there already going to be 4 votes against you, and that means you have to either pull in one of these or just lose. I want to get to, we're wrapping up, but what do we think would have happened in a tie?
It would have been fire, wouldn't it?
At the finale? Like, do you think that Jeff would have come down and said, we tied, we're doing fire here for the winner? Because the rumors are that the jury thought about just tying it up just to see what would happen.
Eliza, yeah. I don't know. Do you bring in, like, they have the pre-jurors there, so do you bring in, like, do all the pre-jurors vote? I
don't think you could. Obviously, because they didn't really watch the second part of the game other than just from the TV screen.
Exactly. Does it turn to a public vote? Like,
I think there's 3 options here. I think first you do a revote. Now that time has passed, we're gonna revote. You
let them watch the edit. Let them watch the edit and then.
I think that's an option. I believe they would do a fire making or a rock, surely not a rock draw, but I think it would have went to something like that. The third option, and this is just me, I don't think this is actually an option. This is just me making it a nice 3 option thing. Does Jeff Probst step up and say, okay, I'm deciding? That would have been iconic.
It would have been iconic for the wrong reasons. I think he would have picked Amanda. I do think he would have picked Amanda in that situation.
You think he would have
chosen? I think he would have picked Amanda because Parvati wasn't a legend yet.
I don't think he likes Parvati that much either.
Do you okay, I guess take the Jeff Probst thing out. You could
Yeah.
say they maybe split the winner. Maybe we would have had the first and
winners.
only split winner in Survivor history. So
I feel like that would have been reception wise. I don't think people would have hated that.
Yeah.
Because of the
really
circumstances.
interesting.
Yeah. This is the first season we get Ponderosa, so like everyone that's been watching this, I have been starting the next season right after we go off air. I'm gonna watch the Ponderosas first from now on, just because those are fun. And then next season is the first one with HD. Thank God, because I was really starting to get tired of non HD because I'm bougie.
You're still gonna be tired.
Final two questions that we end all of these with. Micronesia. We have had how many people back? We've had Amanda, Parvati, James, Penner, Ozzy, Eric. Is that it?
You got Suri, right?
Suri. No, I didn't. And Suri. Of those 7 people, think they were the right choices to have been brought back, and would you have added anyone to that? Not talking about season 50 yet, just of those 7, were they all the right choices, and should there have been other people that have been brought back between basically 16 and 40?
I mean, I would probably remove James from coming back. I know he's a fan favorite, obviously, so like he does, I guess, if you're looking at fans' first favorites, like people that we love, I guess he fits the favorite one. I know earlier I said he kind of didn't. But I just feel like heroes versus villains, like James. I feel like there are other people we could bring back. Everyone else, though, I think is pretty good. Penner, I get it, because Penner was brought back on a season where it was people who were evacuated, right?
Yeah.
I think that kind of worked.
Philippines, yeah.
Yeah, and then if I had to pick, I don't know, Eric coming back, I guess it was kind of like a nice,
a cute little thing for fans versus favorites too, to have.
Yeah,
Eric
fans
back.
Yeah, but no, I definitely feel like, I think we always want more returnees than we get, but I feel like Natalie and Tracy. I really feel like Tracy should have been a candidate for like second chances.
Those were the 2 I was gonna say.
Or like almost like it'd be cool to have a returnee season of people that who really got screwed. So like you just watch China, like Aaron. Aaron got screwed completely. He was the kidnapped one. They throw the challenge, and it's like there's nothing you can do. And almost like Sharia to an extent too from China. Like it'd be cool to have a season of, okay, these are people who kind of got screwed by Twist. The 2 people in Palau that didn't even get picked. So like didn't get voted out. That would be a cool.
What's your face?
Wanda, the one that's
Wanda,
yeah. I think that'd be a cool season. People that you can openly say,
we screwed you. We're sorry. Here's a season for you.
Yeah, and then I feel like Tracy.
Alternate reality in a sense. Like what would have happened if you did not get put in this position?
Yeah, they do a Ghost Island, but like with people instead of advantages.
Ooh,
I do agree with you that Natalie Bolton and Tracy would be the 2 people that I would have wanted to see back. And then for the final question, season 50, if you could pick whether they have come back once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I think the most 4 times is this season. Yeah. No matter how many times they come back or even at all, anyone that we are dying to see from the season for 50.
See, this is really interesting because I'm going to look at it. So you said just give me 1, right?
1 or 2. Yeah, 1 or 2.
I'm going to look at it realistically, like who realistically could come back. Because I do think there are people who are done. Like I know everyone would love to see Parvati back for season 50. I almost feel like Winners at War was a closing of the book for Parvati alongside some other Survivor legends.
Tracy's too old.
Tracy, I'm devastated. I wish I would see her again.
I don't know, Tracy. She was on Keeping Up with the Kardashians as like a fitness person. She was like Kris Jenner's yeah.
Really?
I read. I don't keep up with the Kardashians, but I read it on like a trivia thing. She was like, I read it on her Survivor quarantine questionnaire. She's like, I was on Keeping Up with the Kardashians as Kris Jenner's personal trainer. So
I could definitely see her being like still super in shape. I'm going to say this because my fellow colleague Ollie, who works with me on Survivor Now, we were talking about this the other day because we were just talking about how in love I was with Micronesia. And he says Natalie Bolton is picking up a lot of steam in the Survivor community in terms of someone who could come back. I personally so I'll throw her name out. I just don't think for season 50, when there's so many castaways to choose from, I don't know if she's a big enough hook for CBS to bring her back. I'm going to say, Eliza's interesting. I'm going to say Suri. I could see Suri. Obviously, she's been super active in reality TV. I've got some sources that I can't say right now, but for the right price, Suri is still interested in doing stuff. So. Oh, what'd you say?
I said I'm broke, but then I said I hope so.
Yeah. So for the right price, Suri hasn't shut anything out from what I've been told. And I could see her coming back and having this be her retirement, kind of what Boston Rob, Parvati, those types of Sandra had at Winners at War, where they're like, all these legends were like, oh, the chapter's over. The book has been closed. I could see Suri having that type of moment for Survivor and being like, this is it. I'm going to try to win one more time. It's the one thing I haven't done. So I think that's the big name is Suri. And honestly, out of all of them, that's the only person I could see maybe coming back for 50 is Suri.
Yeah, that's good.
So for me, she got Trader's money is like $5. Like, and also I don't think that Suri would be doing it for winning the money as much as it's just winning the game. Like, it's just at every turn. I mean, Suri is top 5 greatest players of all time without ever winning, and no one else can say that. Through this at this point in the show's history, so it's through 16 seasons, the only person that can really say that is probably Sesternino and Rob Mariano, and that's basically it. But as the seasons have progressed, I think that Suri has consistently just stayed in that top 5 of just like greatest players, and one of the only greatest players that have never won. I would say Suri, and I would say Natalie Bolton. And the reason I say Natalie Bolton is it's very similar to Kelly Wentworth in Second Chances, where like because Kelly Wentworth got such a large backing going into that fan vote, I feel like people like Natalie Bolton, people like Sean Rector from Marquesas, and a few others where the internet just loves these people so much.
They want them back so bad, yeah.
I feel like they could put pressure on CBS, and especially in Sean Rector's case, they have to do the 50% BIPOC thing. So like they got to find black folks from pre 40. But like in Natalie Bolton's case, I do think there is a very large fan base of people that want her back. Survivor has tried bringing her back before. I do feel like that could be an option. But Suri, like obviously, there's not many people pre 40 that have played more than once that I would want to see again. And Suri's probably one of the only people that I was like, I could never get tired of watching her play. Like I said before, I'm giving the season 4.75 out of 5. It is my second highest ranked season through 16 seasons so far, right behind Pearl Islands and right in front of Vanuatu. Thank you both so much. This is now my longest pod that I've done throughout this entire thing. I figured it would be because it is Micronesia. I probably won't start Good Bone until tomorrow morning at this rate. But I want to thank you guys so much. Are we shilling anything? Does anyone want to shill?
No, I don't have anything.
I'll just say a quick shout out. First off, thank you, Drew. I don't know. Do I call you Coach or Drew? I should have talked about that. You
can call me anything.
First off, thank you for doing this for like our viewing pleasure. I've been tuning in from time to time, and you're a beast, man. This is something that I couldn't even do, is to put in all this work and watch back to back to back to back, as much as I love Survivor. So I just want to say thank you for that. And then I start on my channel, if I can just do a quick little shout out, next Wednesday. So same time Survivor usually airs. We are doing our summer rewatch series. We are rewatching, we mentioned it earlier, Suria's in it. We're rewatching Game Changers. So that's going to
Oh.
be starting next Wednesday. We go live at 9 p.m. So that gives everyone an opportunity to get your family in the living room, watch Survivor at the normal time of 8 o'clock or whatever. Or if it's 2-hour episode, start at 7 and then jump on. And as we break down the season, and we'll try to get some of the cast members on to interview them about what happened back then. So yeah, just a quick little shout out. Very excited to rewatch that season. Obviously, there was some very high moments and there's some very low moments.
Yeah, outside of that one moment, the lowest moment for me in that season is how pissed off the jury were at Sarah.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, she played y'all. Get over it. I love Michaela's speech. I think I've said that like 5 different times throughout this entire process, how much I love Michaela's speech during Game Changers, but like, it's true. This woman played you, and you guys are upset about it. Get over it. Anyway, thank you both so much. I don't think we have either one of you on the schedule moving forward, but please reach out if you guys want to come back at any point between now and July 10th. I'd love to have both of you. A lot of fun, and it flew by. Thank you, everyone in the chat, as always. And we will see you all on the other side for Survivor Gabon.
Thank you again for having us.